Hello, my name is Irini Piccolo and I am a PhD candidate in Hispanic Studies and Art History at Durham University. Today I will be talking to you about corporeality, gender and masculinized power in the Saint Michael Triumphant by Bartolome Bermejo. The Saint Michael Triumphant by Bermejo is regarded as the most significant early Spanish painting in Britain, known for its intricate detail and illusionistic splendor. The painting offers an iconic portrayal of Saint Michael vanquishing the devil, a scene taken from the Book of Revelation. It is Bermejo's earliest documented painting, produced in 1468 as the central panel of an altarpiece commissioned for the Church of Saint Michael in Tous, a town in Valencia. The donor, Antoni Joan, is present in the painting, which emphasizes his own knightly heritage. All Bermejo's artistic activity is recorded in the Kingdom of Aragon, where the scene of Saint Michael triumphing over the devil remained a ubiquitous artistic theme throughout the Middle Ages. Michael's significance as an agent of divine judgment became paramount to the protection of the Christians who were destined to enter salvation. Bermejo's unparalleled emulation of the oil painting technique, originating from the Netherlandish schools, affords a three-dimensional sumptuous portrayal of opulent textures, coupled with stark contrasts between the monstrous, the humanistic, and the divine. In this presentation, I will explore the 15th century gendered implications attached to the monstrous, the humanistic, and the divine, demonstrating how Bermejo establishes masculinized power in the panel. With the term masculinized, I refer specifically to symbols of patriarchal power, rather than Michael's literal gendered form. Equally, with the term feminization, I allude to Michael's feminine bodily construction, as well as the suggested incorporation of feminine body parts in corporal construction. With an analysis of the ingrained gendered meanings of pertinent symbolic and corporal details, I will interrogate how a feminization of the grotesque normalizes the manifestation of patriarchal power. This analysis will examine the painting's role as a wider statement exhibiting the patriarchal nature of Christianity, exploring how modern understandings of gender are altered in spiritual medieval contexts. The painting presents viewers with a tactile portrayal of Saint Michael's armor, which corporalizes his armor functioned as a heavily masculinized symbol in the late medieval era, epitomizing courage and warfare. In their substance, archangels are an embodiment of light, meaning that they do not take a materialized gender. Michael is identified as a male archangel by his masculine name, and more importantly, by his position as a divine knight. His knightly quality is articulated by the intricate detail attached to the depiction of armor. There is ample evidence suggesting that Bermejo accurately portrayed the construction of field armor from the 1460s, demonstrating how he devised as corporal a depiction as possible of Michael's armor, endowing it with a tactile presence. However, Michael is shown as exhibiting feminized qualities with his slight figure and delicate facial features, hardly supporting his masculinized attributes. Michael's position as a knightly warrior may have led modern viewers to expect a muscular figure with some degree of masculine facial definition, even at the saint's timeless youth. At the same time, divine subjects such as Michael positively stood outside of humanistic corporal boundaries. Michael's armor is suggestive of his positive masculinized qualities as a warrior, but as a figure, he represents the pure ungendered form that humanity was not believed to ever achieve, demonstrating how virtue, in its purest form, could triumph over evil without the need for hypermasculine prowess. The figure of Antony embodies masculinized power from an earthly humanistic perspective. His facial definition indicating his status as an aging human man contrasts sharply with Michael's serene, youthful expression. This dichotomic representation of the earthly and the divine demonstrates the role of Michael as the spiritual manifestation of power, which is bolstered by Antoni's establishment of humanistic personalized devotion. He is shown praying to Michael in an opulent metallic garment, imitating Michael's knightly power. Lorne Campbell argues that the painting illustrates Antoni's self-perception as a warrior. Joan is shown as clutching a particularly large sword, which exudes hegemonic phallic value. This artistic manifestation of mimetic identification advocates Antoni's place in paradisical premises. The reflection of Jerusalem in Michael's armor symbolizes his position as the bearer of moral judgment, inviting Antoni to transcend the earthly premises into the divine worlds. By intersecting the earthly and the divine in this manner, Bermejo places masculinity at the center of moral power, exhibiting the broader patriarchal nature of the Christian religion. Bermejo becomes part of the masculinized manifestation of power in the painting, having inscribed his signature upon a cartellino, a term used to describe a hyperrealistic portrayal of parchment. The thickness of the cartellino, and I apologize for my pronunciation, and the definition of its texture emphasize Bermejo's intradiegetic authorial presence in the narrative, the parchment constituting a body within the painting. Elizabeth Grosch reinforces Jacques Derrida's idea that instead of constituting an external presence to the text, signatures formed a physical existence within the narrative. The signature is on the worldly side of the painting, positioned directly underneath Antoni's feet. The signature, in many ways, articulates Bermejo's omnipresence in the painting. By inscribing his name, instead of including a self-portrait in paintings like Netherlandish artists such as Jan van Eyck did, Bermejo articulates his own spirituality. He makes his authorial power known to viewers without revealing his human identity, thus endowing his inscriptive presence with a divine element. The corporal depiction of Bermejo's signature, in this sense, accentuates the relationship between the divine and the corporal worlds, as he materializes his own presence, but in scripted terms. The signature's position on the worldly side of the painting accentuates the portrayal of Michael's and Antoni's masculinized divine and humanistic powers. The signature alone, however, does not articulate Bermejo's personal masculine identity. It is purely a show of authorial power, positioned underneath his subjects with a masculine identity, Michael and Antoni. However, Grosch argues that although the sex of the author has no direct bearing on the authority that is articulated by the text, it is possible for the corporeality of the artist in this context to leave its mark on the painting through the signature. Reciprocally, the processes of textual production also produce an effect on the viewers of the painting. The signature must be understood as a relative articulation of masculine power. In other words, it functions as a liminal accentuation of Michael's iconic battle, lying at the borders of Michael's and Antoni's show of spirituality in the panel. It will be necessary to examine further the nature of the authorial identity indicated by the signature to understand how it emphasizes the establishment of masculinized power in the panel. Bermejo's signature becomes a form of scripture, establishing his authorial power in the composition. Although Antoni features in the painting, Bermejo reiterates his ownership of the work reminding viewers of its very creator. It is also worth mentioning that rubeus constituting the Latin equivalent of Bermejo, meaning reddish. Leticia Treves suggests that Bermejo's reiteration of his own chromatic identity may refer to his corporal association with the color, such as having red hair or a ruddy complexion. However, in this panel, Bermejo's chromatic identity becomes, in fact, associated with his position as the artist. He emphasizes his technical mastery of Michael's cloak, which serves as a striking feature in the panel. The cloak pervades most of the painting space, becoming an iconic emblem of masculine heroic power and an articulation of divine glory in the battle against the devil. The signature thus directs the attention of 15th century viewers to the cloak, functioning as a liminal enunciation of Michael's heroic power dominating the panel. However, the red color in the panel does not only emphasize positive imagery. The devil's deep crimson skin endows the panel with a dramatic tint, symbolizing the fires of hell shattering the calm spiritual composure of Michael and Antoni. This shade of crimson accentuates the devil's grotesque body, which constitutes an amalgamation of animalistic corporal parts, such as a reptilian tail and a bird's legs. The animalistic construction of the devil's body lies at the borders of humanistic identities, signifying his martial state. What is in fact more striking about his body is the multiplicity of open orifices forming the devil's waistline and mouth. These orifices echo vaginal imagery, encompassing a feminized representation of the grotesque. The devil's eyes peeping out from his torso resemble nipples, suggesting the premature existence of breasts within this monstrous corporal construction. The pelvic end of Michael's sword moves swiftly towards the devil's feminized body, potentially about to penetrate his mouth. The weapon became a symbol of phallic power in medieval art, especially if it had a pelvic shape. The devil epitomizes the corrupted but vulnerable bestial subject, glorifying Michael's phallic power articulated by the sword and emphasized by the erectile position of his arm upon descending his weapon. In her analysis of gender construction, Judith Butler explains that gendered meanings become embedded into what she terms a culturally restricted corporal space, eliciting interpretations within the confines of that space. By inscribing the devil with corporal attributes which allude to the construction of the feminine body, Bermejo creates an illocutionary relationship between bestial performance and feminized appearance. Given that evil in the medieval era was correlated with feminine qualities, it was common for artists to depict the devil in this way. The devil's ungendered and bigendered statuses connote danger and vulnerability to the human form. The deployment of feminized corporal imagery establishes, to a certain degree, a gender dynamic of power. The devil's feminized corporal attributes accentuate the positive performance of masculinity, emphasizing the heroism of the knightly Saint Michael. This iconic fight against the devil epitomizes the patriarchal overtones of divine power. The masculinized articulation of power and the feminized projection of vulnerability need to be understood within the didactic functions of the painting, which epitomizes personalized devotion, functioning as a manifestation of Antoni's individualistic, spiritual, and moral identities. In this panel, Antoni's knightly and devout qualities are weaved into the depiction of Michael. The act of devotion around the glorification of chivalric violence, the painting becoming a wider statement underscoring the necessity of the sword's phallic power for the redemption of men and women alike. The gendered implications of Michael's battle enable viewers to conceptualize the fight against evil with the positive qualities associated with masculine energy, understanding that entering salvation requires courage, chivalric honor, and an unwavering devotion for him. For Antoni, the painting becomes a public manifestation of these attributes, positioning his devotion as the standard of morality by which viewers are propelled to live. Antoni uses the painting to secure his place in heaven. The masculinized power becomes a wider statement articulating this divine right. The painting exemplifies how patrons and artists adopted gendered performance as a means of articulating their own personalized manifestations of spirituality. Thank you so much for listening.